Welcome to the Weather Guru podcast for July 7th, 2021 here. We're currently looking at the latest on Hurricane Tropical Storm Beryl here as it continues to churn northwestward at 12 miles an hour towards the Texas coastline. This is the latest advisory as of 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time. And you can see it's still moving at a pretty fast clip. And so with this fast clip, it's going to be making landfall very early Monday morning, perhaps in the 4 a.m. To 5 a.m. time frame. It is going to be making itself inland. The good news is Tropical Storm Beryl has not strengthened any further so far this morning. Hurricane Center and others expect it to intensify later on this afternoon by 2 p.m. starting at 2 p.m. to the 6 p.m. advisory, getting back to a hurricane status later on tonight as a Category 1 before it makes landfall. But as you can see, it's running out of time here. It's going to make landfall somewhere in the Matagorda Bay area between Port Lavaca, Corpus Christi, and points northward. Now, the main threats with this coming in this way to the Texas coastline is going to be heavy rainfall and the potential for flooding here. I'm going to show you the aircraft reconnaissance mission. They're in there right now. The Air Force is in there now. The NOAA mission was completed. NOAA's going to do another run probably before lunchtime today. So far, the pressure's holding at 992 millibars as they pass through the eye there, and they're going to make another pass coming through the northeast quadrant like that to form a bow. They complete the bow. They haven't completed the bow yet. But so far, pressure is still up there. Now, you can see the system is better organized this morning as it continues. Soon, these outer bands, these feeder bands, will be affecting the Texas coastline later on today, including the Houston-Galveston Bay area. Later on today, in the afternoon, 6 p.m., these outer bands will start to reach the coast. As you can see, the system is very compact with tropical storm force winds only extending out about 100 miles from the center here. We're going to just make sure 125 miles from the center. So it's a very compact system here. It's not a Harvey. This will not be a Hurricane Harvey by any stretch of the imagination. Central pressure is up to 992 millibars. And so right now it's a mid-grade tropical storm basically with winds of 60 miles an hour. So now this does not mean you should take it lightly at this time. This system will continue to intensify to a Category 1 hurricane with winds somewhere between 75 to 85 miles an hour as it makes landfall somewhere in the Matagorda Bay area. The main threats are going to be flooding, storm surge, 4 to 6 feet where directly to the right of where it makes landfall at, and also it could be up to 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet to the east of that. So that's going to be some of the major threats as well here. But you can see the wind shear has laxed up a little bit, and it's starting to get better convection around the center of this storm, and so thereby it will be intensifying to a Category 1 hurricane. I don't see a major hurricane coming out of this close to the coastline here, and so that's good news. And like I said, this will be a tropical storm, but it'll bring a lot of rain once it comes inland because it's still going to be pulling that south southerly flow from the Gulf. It's still going to be pulling here as it makes its way inland sometime early tomorrow morning. Now, Atlantic wide, we're looking at here. We don't see much here in the Caribbean or the Atlantic, the North Atlantic here. There's upper level low here, spinning here just northeast of Bahamas and Bermuda here. And there's some tropical wave coming here that was supposed to be the D-named Storm Debbie, but it broke apart way over here in the Lesser Antilles. It's bringing a lot of heavy to moderate rain to Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, and the islands off of Cuba here. And also Jamaica, western parts of Jamaica, near the Grill and Montego Bay may be getting some remnant showers as well this morning. Also Central America, so Nicaragua, and Honduras and El Salvador are getting rain here from this little gyre, this little tropical storm tropical wave that's propagating through the Caribbean. And also, we have this high pressure firmly in command here, and this trough here, this elongated trough here is providing showers and storms already from Louisiana up through the mid-Mississippi Valley and Tennessee Valley. So that's expected to continue. This is what's going to grab Beryl and send it north and northeast around this trough, elongated trough here, and this high pressure here that's dipping down here in the southeast. This is what's keeping Beryl away from the Panhandle, away from Mobile and New Orleans, and that's why it's firmly in control, and that's why it's going to make landfall in Texas sometime tomorrow morning between the hours of 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. It's going to make that landfall there as a Category 1, I believe. So it'll be a high-end Category 1, 85, maybe 90-mile-an-hour winds, and then to come on in. We'll see it. There's warm waters, yes, off the Texas coast here. There's very warm waters immediately off the coast here, like 86 degrees Fahrenheit. It is enough fuel to give it strength, but I just don't foresee it with this structure here as it stands right now. I just don't foresee it getting into a major hurricane status. So it'll come in as a Category 1, possibly a low-end Category 2, because Category 2 starts at 96 miles an hour. So it's possible it can get up to that before it's going to have to come in the land early Monday morning. And like I said, the major threats is going to be flooding all the way from South Padre Island all the way up through Sabine Pass. You're looking at 4 to 6 feet storm surge, possibly even higher, 8 feet in some isolated spots. And then the flooding rains, and this is going to be the flooding rain potential here, is going to be the main thing with this system. It won't be Harvey type of rain where we got 30, 40 inches. It's just it's too compact of a system, and it's too weak of a system. But it will provide, look at this, these are some heavy totals here. And this orange and yellow, that's 8 inches of rain or more. So in that I-45 corridor, if you're coming out of Houston, in Huntsville, maybe in College Station, in those areas, you want to look out because it's going to be flooding rain starting Monday afternoon as the system works inland. And so this also Houston, you're included. The western, southern suburbs there of Houston and northern suburbs are going to be inundated with at least 6 inches of rain in this orange shading here, light orange. And in that dark orange shading, that's 8 inches of rain, possibly up to 10 inches of rain closer to the Matagorda Bay and also the Galveston Bay. So you want to take this storm seriously because of the rainfall potential here that's going to last for Monday into Tuesday as well. And, a couple of inches is a lot. It's not a lot in other places, but in Houston and in the Galveston Bay and these other areas up here, Huntsville, College Station, up I-45, up I-35 possibly too, you're going to get 2 to 4 inches here, a little slither here in the gradient here, just south of Dallas-Fort Worth. So you're coming out of Dallas-Fort Worth on 20, going towards Canton and all those areas, Sulphur Springs. You're going to get a lot of rain up there in Texarkana. So we got to be concerned for these folks after the system makes landfall Monday morning and works its way up through the Texas River Valley there, Sabine River Valley there, later on Monday afternoon. And so that's going to be the primary legacy with this system, is a lot of flooding rains. And then also when it makes landfall here, as you can see, this white front quadrant here is going to be coming into the Houston area and north. So Houston and all points north need to be concerned about tornadoes here as it comes in. They're going to probably issue tornado watches and warnings once the system gets further inland here later on Monday afternoon. So Monday night into Tuesday morning, tornadoes could be thrown off here because it's still going to be pulling moisture up like this from the Gulf. This side here is still going to be pulling moisture up from the Gulf, even though it's going to be well inland. And so that's going to be the legacy of this storm. It's going to be tornadoes and flooding here on this eastern half here, anywhere from Beaumont, Texas, through western suburbs and northern suburbs of Houston, with this legend here showing 6 to 8 inches of rain in certain spots like Huntsville, College Station, the Woodlands, on the west side, Katy, Texas, down towards Baytown, and all these points south here, and also south of Houston, southern Houston suburbs, coming out of League City, and all these areas on I-45 and I-35. You need to watch out for that, because just the slightest little storm, a little feeder band comes through, one of these bands come through here on the eastern side, it can drop a bunch of rain in a hurry. You can get rainfall rates 1 inch an hour, 1.5 inches an hour, 2 inches an hour, and that definitely can cause flooded streets, road rage Monday afternoon into Tuesday night, all the way to Tuesday night, as the system tries to pull north and then northeastward out of the area. But you can see this dark green here. It's a very tight gradient here. So I-35 too as well. If you're coming out of I-35 south of Dallas, you want to be careful towards Waxahachie and all of that. You want to be careful because that's still 2 to 4 inches of rainfall there for you guys. And in the western suburbs, like Fort Worth and Arlington, you may not get that much out of this. As you can see, it cuts off significantly. But this is going to be the legacy down here. Anybody from Corpus Christi, Matagorda Bay, Port Lavaca, Victoria, Houston, Baytown, League City, Katy, the Woodlands, College Station, all these areas are going to be inundated with rain, up to 8 inches of rain here in this orange shading here. So that's what we're going to be looking to be concerned about. That and the tornado threat immediately right from Houston east, Beaumont, up towards Tyler, Texarkana on 20 there, coming across 20, Shreveport even. These areas, as that moisture was going to be pulled up after the system makes landfall Monday morning. It makes landfall Monday afternoon in the Monday night. That's when the tornado warning and tornado watches will be issued for you guys, all of this eastern Texas quadrant, because the storm is still going to be pulling those storms off the bay here. As you can see, these feeder bands are going to be coming off like that and hitting the Texas coast. So that's going to be the concern. It's going to be a Category 1 hurricane once again when it hits. Maximum sustained winds around 85 to 90 miles an hour, but the good news is, like I said, this is a compact system. It's no Hurricane Harvey, but it is going to have flooding potential. The Air Force mission is into it right now, and they're finding steady pressure holding between 996 millibars or 995 millibars. So it's still holding right now. It's not increasing yet, but it will be intensifying later on today to become a hurricane. Right now it's a tropical storm. Now also, they have new storm surge products here, and also the discussion also shows that as well, that the convective structure of Beryl continues to wax and wane. It continues to pulse up and pulse down. We've seen that yesterday as well, and we've seen that today as well, as Beryl continues to try to get his act together here, and it's continued this northwesterly motion. It hasn't really changed, even though you looked on the radar here, and this system has tried to reorganize several times its center. It's hard to get a fix on the center here. You can see how it kind of pulses up this way, and it pulses back up this way, and it almost appears somewhat stationary, you know, but the convection is just covering up the movement right now over the center. You look at it and you say, oh man, it's not moving that much. It almost looks stationary, right? But it's that the convection, the heavy convection around the center right now is covering up the movement, the northwest movement. You can see on the right side, you can see it's moving, it's pulling toward the northwest, and it's moving pretty fast from northwest at 12, and that's where they expect an earlier landfall. But the dry air, okay, the shear has let up, but the dry air now is affecting here. You see this big gap of in the convection here on the eastern side, and also wrapping around the northwest side. There's big gaps in convection here, and that tells you that the dry air entrainment is why the storm is having a hard time getting going here. Maybe that will ease up as it gets closer to the coast, but the window of opportunity once again for strengthening is limited, and that's why the Hurricane Center only has it at a category 1, a minimum category 1, coming in at winds of about 85 miles an hour. But even if it does come in as, let's say the worst case scenario, it comes in as a category 2, right? The hurricane force wind field, let me show you what I mean. The hurricane force wind field of this thing is going to be so small, so it's not going to be, the rain is going to be the main impact, because look at the tropical storm force winds extend out 125 miles, right? So let's say it becomes in a worst case scenario, it comes in as a cat 3, a borderline, cat 2, a strong cat 2, like winds 110 miles an hour, as it goes that rapid intensification that a lot of meteorologists saying that it might do, right? So let's give you the worst case scenario. Let's say it comes in as a category 2, top end, 110 miles an hour, 115, right? Almost cat 3. The hurricane force wind field is going to be so small because it has to consolidate around the eye, and so you're looking at maybe a hurricane force wind field of maybe 10-20 miles, if that, 25 miles, if that. It's not going to be huge. Remember, Beryl only carried at its maximum point back here in the Caribbean a 40 mile zone of hurricane force winds. Those are winds above 74 miles an hour sustained. And so even if it does maximum intensity, let's say it undergoes rapid intensification and becomes this major category 3, a high end category 2, ladies and gentlemen, the wind field itself is just physics. You're only going to get a hurricane force zone wind field here of about 20 miles from the eye, if that happens, so that's just one scenario, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm agreeing with the Hurricane Center here. It's going to be a category 1 high end, maybe 90-95 miles an hour, and that's pretty much it. It's going to make landfall, but the main threat is going to be the flooding here, and the flooding is going to last a couple of days here, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why the Hurricane Center has issued these products to us of the rainfall potential and as well as the flash flooding potential. You need to be prepared with batteries, power outages. You need to be prepared for food, batteries, and not drive on these roads after Monday afternoon, because there will be flooding here on this eastern side. If you're coming across 20 from Shreveport to Tyler to Canton, you want to be careful. If you're coming up I-45, the Woodlands, College Station, Waco, you want to be careful, because in this red section there's at least a 40% chance of flash flooding into downtown Houston. If you're out of loop, 610. If you're in a loop, you want to be careful. 3rd Ward, 5th Ward, Baytown, all these areas are prone to flooding, and so you're going to get rain from the system because you're on the eastern side, Houston, and so unfortunately, even if it comes in the Matagorda Bay here, down here, you're on the eastern side, so it's going to come inland and push all that water, all that rain is going to continue to wrap around the feeder bands. These feeder bands are going to be wrapping right in the Houston area and the Galveston Bay area, so you're looking at rainfall rates anywhere from 1 to 2 inches per hour, and like I said, that's going to pile up fast on the streets. We're going to get street flooding, we're going to get possible flash flooding here. This is the product from the National Hurricane Center, and that's spot on. This eastern Texas zone is prone to flooding, and remember, the rivers are already elevated from you guys had a storm, I believe it was a month ago, that just continued to brought a bunch of rain in from a bunch of frontal zones boundaries that came in, and so the rivers there, Sabine River and other rivers, are already kind of elevated, and so that's going to be the main legacy with Tropical Storm or Hurricane Beryl potentially, is going to be the flooding rains and the tornado potential on this eastern zone here, and including Shreveport, Oil City, Lake Charles, Cameron, down here in this area here, especially in red here. I want you guys to pay attention. So it includes I-10, heading towards out of Houston towards Katy Freeway. It includes I-45 heading north and south, League City, Galveston Bay, the Woodlands, Sugar Land, all that is in this red zone. That means moderate flash flooding over the next 3 days. And so when it makes landfall early Monday morning, you're going to see rain, but you're not going to get the real rain until as it works its way inland here, which is going to take a couple of hours. So the critical time for the flooding is going to be Monday night into that Tuesday morning rush hour. That's going to be the critical time, and even in the Wednesday, but Tuesday morning and Tuesday afternoon, this area here, I-45 and I-35 and I-10, is going to be critical here that people stay off the roads, because it could be a lot of flash flooding on some of these secondary streets and in the Buffalo Bayou, Houston, and other areas down here in southeast of Houston on 45 coming toward the Galveston Bay area as well. My friends in Corpus Christi, Victoria, you're going to get flooding. Port Lavaca, you're going to get more of that storm surge down there. So 4 to 6 feet is forecasted. Could be a little bit higher than that, depending on the angle that the system makes landfall. Tropical Storm Beryl is forecast to make landfall by 4 a.m. Monday morning. It's going to be hurricane by then, a minimal hurricane, category 1, so that's good news. And like I said, the wind field of this thing is small. So you're looking at 120 miles of tropical storm force winds. If it becomes a hurricane force winds are going to be so small in a small zone, somewhere between the down there by the Matagorda Bay. So they'll have to deal with that. But once it becomes inland, it's going to quickly lose steam and become back to a tropical storm. And then we got to deal with all of this rain here. And later on in the forecast period, Arkansas is going to get a lot of rain in yellow here, as well as Missouri and St. Louis. But they'll just be dealing with it less than a depression at that point. It'll just be a tropical rainstorm. So that's good news. Now, some areas are getting beneficial rain, like the Texas Panhandle. They've been very dry, and Oklahoma up here, they've been very dry. So that's beneficial for them. But elsewhere, this is what we're dealing with here with this storm. Now, once again, looking area-wide here, this is Arleta. Arleta has dissipated. We have nothing in the eastern Pacific here. We have nothing in the far Atlantic, Cape Verde right here. So we have a little lull in activity for the next week, and probably the next week, there's going to be a lull in activity. And then toward the end of the month, activity is expected to increase. Hurricane and tropical storm activity out here is expected to increase and pick up. As you know, this is expected to be a busy season here. We have an upper level low here, northeast of Bahamas here, closing on in Bermuda, but that's not going to provide any showers to either one of those. It's just going to be showers out here in the mid-Atlantic. And then down here we have a tropical wave here that's bringing shower to Panada, Rio, Cuba, and also the western tip of Cuba, and also providing shower to Grand Cayman and Little Cayman, as well as Jamaica, the western tip, Negril, and Montego Bay, providing a little showers to them as well. And Central America also has some showers here toward Nicaragua and Honduras and Costa Rica, some showers off the western coast of you guys. But other than that, it's pretty else clear. Tropical Storm Beryl is the name of the game in town right now, and like I said, that southerly shear has relaxed somewhat, but the dry air entrainment from the trough continues to affect the system. But later on, it's going to grab the system and it's going to make landfall somewhere between the Port Lavaca, Matagorda Bay as a category 1, possibly with winds around 85 miles an hour sustained, and it's going to be a small zone that's going to experience those hurricane force winds. But the storm surge and the flooding is going to be the main threat here, as you see here, and the tornadoes on that right front quadrant in this zone right here, the same zone that has a flash flood zone, is going to be the same zone that's going to have the tornado zones, even including parts of Louisiana, the western parts from Shreveport, Oral City, down to Baton Rouge, Lake Charles, Cameron, Louisiana. Be careful, because you're still going to get all that moisture feeding off the Gulf like that, feeder bands coming off as the storm works its way inland, as Tropical Storm Beryl works its way deeper inland and weakens. And all it is that the tornadoes come because you have that low-level jet, the low-level stream coming across like that, and you have winds turning at different directions, creating that spin, enough spin to set off quick tornadoes, EF1, EF2 tornadoes in these areas here. So that's all. That will be issued later on, though, so there's nothing to worry about until later on, Monday afternoon and the Monday night, and that's where you'll see the tornado watch issued and tornado warnings issued for western Louisiana, eastern Texas, and part of Arkansas up here too, as well as the system pulls north. And so just to recap here, for those who are just coming in, the Air Force mission is into Beryl, and they're going to be making its final pass. They're in storm right now, and they're so far finding pressure around 992. So the storm hasn't really strengthened that much. It's still hanging on to its status. But as you can see, it is getting better organized on the eastern flank and western flanks of the center of the storm. More convection, burst of convection. But as the hurricane center noted, it's just burst of convection. It hasn't really grown, to a full hurricane yet. And the reason why is because we've had huge wind shear here in the Gulf of Mexico, as well as dry air. Now, the only thing it has going for it right now is the sea surface temperatures are 84 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. And once it gets up here in this zone, probably about 50 to 70 miles off the coast, The sea surface temperatures are 86, 87 degrees Fahrenheit. That's its last chance of strengthening before it gets into the Matagorda Bay. And so that's why people, and a lot of people are forecasting it to be a strong Category 1 hurricane. Some people said before there's going to be a major hurricane. I don't think it's going to get to a Category 2 or 3. It might get to a low-wind Category 2 because Category 2 starts at 95, 96 miles an hour. That's the maximum I think it's going to get to. But it could undergo rapid intensification. But looking at the structure right now with this dry air on the east side, breaking up the convection, it's struggling right now. So the period for intensification is going to begin possibly at starting 2 p.m. this afternoon, 2 to 4 p.m. this afternoon, and lasting through Sunday night, 11 p.m. After that, all bets are off, and this thing is coming ashore early Monday morning, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., somewhere between the Matagorda Bay, Port Lavaca, or something like that, and it'll work its way inland between these two bays here, between Galveston Bay and Port Lavaca and Matagorda Bay. But South Padre Island and all the Berry Islands, you need to already have your plans in place to evacuate or leave, because you're going to get a 4 to 6 feet or 4 to 8 feet storm surge coming in there, and you don't want to be there. It's life threatening still, because there's a bubble of water. This thing is carrying with it, and it's going to create that surge immediately to the right in front of the center. It's going to push all that water into you, and you don't want to have to deal with a water rescue or anything like that. So please take it seriously, because even though it's not a Hurricane Harvey or anything yet, it's still a serious storm, and it still means business here for the southeast Texas coast. As you can see, the watches and warnings for this new advisory at 8 a.m. that came out about an hour ago, it does include a hurricane watch in pink now for the southern Rio Grande area, even though they weren't in the main, they're not in the main landfall impact. So you still have to watch the storm. Those in Brownsville, Brownsville, Corpus Christi, Harrigan, Texas. My friends over in McAllen, you still want to watch it because you still can get rain your way, and even includes a little bit of northeastern Mexico as a tropical storm warning. But you guys are going to be fine over there in northeastern Mexico. This is going to be affecting more of the northeast Texas coastline. Now, and there's also a tropical storm watch extended now east of Houston. So you guys over toward the Louisiana border, Lake Charles, Cameron, you have a tropical storm watch. You're going to get 1 to 3 feet of storm surge. So you want to be prepared for that. Careful as that as the system becomes closer to making a landfall and getting inland there. You're going to be still in that zone also where it's throwing rain all along that bay. And so that's why my friends in Houston, if you're going to be out and about, I tell you once again, if you're coming on I-45 Houston after Monday morning, after 10 a.m., after rush hour, you want to be careful, because it's going to be a huge amount of rain coming up this way here. And that's why the Hurricane Center is giving you a moderate in the red zone here, 40% chance of flash flooding over the next 3 days. So Houston, the Woodlands, Sugarland, Baytown, League City, Galveston Bay, Katy, Texas, any of those suburbs on the northern and western side, as well as the southeastern side, you're going to be the ones getting a lot of flooding rain coming up here starting Monday morning at rush hour, and possibly lasting through the night and to Tuesday. This is also true for tornadoes. Tornado watches and warnings will be issued once these feeder bands come on shore, rotating like that. You see they're rotating now. It's lining up in Houston right now. Once these bands continue to come on shore, they won't stop. We may have training, which is these bands rotating over the same area over and over, bringing rain 1 to 2 inches an hour, and that's why we don't want that. So that's the main legacy with Tropical Storm Beryl, is that it's going to be a flooding rain. So regardless if it comes in as a Category 1 or 2 hurricane, basically the hurricane wind field is going to be so small. We're talking hurricane force winds that are only going to be out probably about 20 miles from the center, if it does become a hurricane. Some models keep it as just a tropical storm coming in too, so there's also that too. But even if it does become a hurricane, ladies and gentlemen, the wind field is only going to be 10 to 20 miles worth of hurricane force wind, so that's going to be right at the coast. And then after that, it quickly dies down. Immediately after it makes landfall, about an hour or two, that's it. It's back to tropical storm force winds everywhere. So this orange shading here, this is 120 miles worth of tropical storm winds. That's going to be coming in, and so that's winds between 39 and 73 miles an hour. So everyone should be okay. But like I said, you should be prepared for power outages and storm flooding here that's going to be occurring, especially east from I-45 eastward, and from I-10 as well, heading toward the Katy Freeway and the Loop. All you guys in the inner loop, you need to be prepared. Buffalo Bayou, I'm sure they're making the preparations, because it floods very easily, and you're gonna get anywhere from Houston north, anywhere 4 to 8 inches of rain, including training the system. These bands coming over the same areas over and over, setting up. Now it won't be Hurricane Harvey flooding at all. I don't want to scare anybody, but it's going to be enough rain where it's going to cause ponding and flooding on the roads, and some flooding and flash flooding in key areas. And that's why the Hurricane Center has issued this serious chance, especially in the red here, even up towards Dallas-Fort Worth. If you're coming on 20 and you're going out towards Canton and all of that, Tyler, you got to be careful too as well, because this yellow still gives you at least a 15% chance of seeing heavy rain. Shreveport, Oral City, so 22 as well. Texarkana. You guys need to be shoring up your plans after Monday afternoon as the system works north. And it's not going to stick around that long. The system is going to move in fast and accelerate. By Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday, it's already probably up into Arkansas, up into the Boot Hill country of Missouri, and out of Texas. But that trail of rain that's still pulling moisture up from the Gulf like that is going to be lasting. And that's why it's going to be over the next 3 days here, according to the forecast here. So that's one thing we have to look at. Peak surge areas. Let's go over that one more time here. Once again, we got 4 to 6 feet from the Matagorda Bay here, Bayport, Corpus Christi area, all the way up to the Galveston Bay, 3 to 5 feet above ground. So you got to be protected here along all of the Galveston Bay area. And then it kind of eases up here from Cameron, Louisiana to Sabine Pass, 1 to 3 feet. But all the way down here, that's why southern Texas too, I say same thing. You get a 2 to 4 feet water rise. That could be life threatening depending on where you're located at. So Padre Island, all those islands need to evacuate inland unless they, got some plans, other plans, and don't want to have to deal with a water rescue and all that, because there's going to be a ton of water coming in along with the rain coming in, and that's why they'll see the flooding and all of that coming in, ladies and gentlemen. But overall, this is not bad. This is not bad compared to what it could have been had it came in like, a category 4 or something like it did the Caribbean. Our poor friends in the Grenadian Islands and St. Vincent and the Grenadine, they took the brunt of this thing as a category 4, and our prayers and thoughts are still with them. So we're blessed that, it's coming in. It's still a compact storm here, guys. Winds only send out, tropical storm force winds only send out 120 miles from the center, and there is no hurricane winds with it right now, but there will be as well. Great question there, Mason. How will Beryl affect oil refineries in Texas? Any shutdowns? I haven't heard of any shutdowns. Good morning, Sophia from Jamaica. I haven't heard of any oil refinery shutdowns, Mason. And the reason why is because there's a certain criteria that they go by, and it has to be a certain distance from the oil refineries as well. And the storm surge has to be a certain peak. And right now, the storm surge hasn't gotten to that peak where they would shut it down, tell the workers to go home. So I haven't heard any, but check back on Monday afternoon to see if the refineries were still open. I believe they're still open as far as I know, because we have buoys out here in the Gulf of Mexico, and they're still working and operating. And so I don't think they'll shut it down for this one. If it was closer to the Louisiana coastline, if it came in at Houston directly, then yeah, they would shut it down. But since this is kind of an indirect hit, it's not going to shut it down, the refineries, at this time. And so great question. Good morning, Sophia from Jamaica. What part of Jamaica are you from? You guys are getting a brief showers to the south here from this tropical wave on the western side, but it shouldn't be too much going on there for you right now. So I'm glad. I pray for Jamaica too as well and their cleanup. They were blessed that the eye barrel went to the south and hit, but it came through Montego Bay pretty hard, the northern eye wall. But hopefully the cleanup is going well. I heard power was restored to about almost 90% to 100% of the island, and so things are looking up there as well, as I have friends over there as well. So guys, once again, we're talking about Tropical Storm Beryl making that landfall at 4 a.m. here. Local time, Central Daylight Time here, into the Matagorda Bay. And so with this, the primary legacies of Tropical Storm Beryl is going to be this heavy rainfall that's going to come in this white front quadrant, and these bands that are going to be spiraling into the Houston, Galveston Bay area and also northward. And so you want to take precautions to have food, water, medicines, and supplies, because, they can last till Monday and Tuesday as well. It's going to take Monday and Tuesday, all of Tuesday, to get through Texas, eastern Texas itself. And then you're in the clear starting Tuesday afternoon, late Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday, as it pulls up into the Arkansas, Ozarks, and the Missouri Boot Hill country. So once again, this system is a tropical storm still. The Hurricane Center has Air Force missions into it. NOAA Air Force missions are flying into it right now as we speak, so they can come with the 11 p.m. Eastern advisory coming up in a couple of hours here. And what we expect to find is, that it's still going to be a tropical storm. Winds will probably increase maybe 5 miles an hour to 65 miles an hour, but the pressures they're finding right now in these passes right now is still above 992, 994 extrapolated sea pressure. So it hasn't increased as of yet, guys, into a hurricane, but it will. As you can see, the pass there, 993. So the pressure is actually oscillating. Like I said, the system is pulsing up and down. It's trying to become a hurricane, but it's not going to become a hurricane in my opinion, like they said, until later on Sunday. So by 5 p.m. advisory today on Sunday Eastern time, this will become a minimal hurricane approximately. But the pressure's dropping only 1 millibar an hour or so. So it's taking its time. But the wind shear has calmed down here. As you can see, the western side convection continues here. Some believe it'll get up to a category 2. I don't think so. This is going to be a borderline Cat 1, probably with winds of 90 miles an hour or so when it makes landfall early tomorrow morning in that Matagorda Bay. But storm surge is going to be heavy. 4 to 6 feet, even possibly 8 feet in some parts, and that's why these barrier islands here need to evacuate. If you're on South Padre Island, up these islands up toward Matagorda Bay, and Houston, Galveston Bay, you'll be fine. That's again, the oil refineries are open, but you will see some more storm surge in that area. Yes, Kingston, Jamaica, yes, you guys fared very well. There was probably some street flooding and pond flooding, but that should be cleared out by now and subsided, Sophia. But definitely, you guys took a slight blow from this as well. So Beryl's legacy is going to be tremendous here, ladies and gentlemen, as it continues on its track northwest at 12 miles an hour. The speed, as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, the speed will continue it will maintain its speed. It won't slow down here. And that's why the Hurricane Center has bumped up that landfall to early Monday morning, 4 a.m. Monday morning, of sometime between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. because this thing is racing northwest quickly to make that landfall. Whereas before, you remember a couple of days ago, was in the Bay of Campeche, and it was very slow moving. It wasn't moving as fast. Now it's speeding up as well. So expect that movement to continue throughout Sunday as well as we continue on. So once again, for our friends in Houston, in the Houston area, Galveston Bay area, and also down south towards the Matagorda Bay, you can experience tropical storm conditions on Monday morning from this system here, and that's winds 30-40 mile an hour gusts could be possible, sometimes gusting up to 50. But the main threat for all these areas inland is going to be tornado threat and a flooding threat here as the system works its way in. And it's still struggling, as you see. Now, looking at the structure, I want to tell you about the structure of the system right now. We don't have an eye because it's not a hurricane. It's forecast to become a hurricane just before landfall. But you look at the structure here, it's still dealing with dry air coming around the northwest side here of the system here. And the circulation is not as tight and fluid as it was back in the past over the Yucatan, or before it hit the Yucatan Peninsula. You can see these outer spiraling feeder bands do contain strong storms out here. There's water spouts and things probably reported out here. This is what's going to be coming along the coast here and wrapping around. So Houston, you're in the clear as far as the direct hit, the Galveston Bay, but these feeder bands wrapping around that east side is going to bring a lot of training rain, a lot of flooding rains, and a lot of tornadoes, possible spin up tornadoes, EF1, possibly EF2, later on Monday night. And that's the danger that we are faced here. Now, toward the Matagorda Bay, where it makes direct landfall, yes, you have to deal with those briefly for hurricane force winds that come in barely 75, 80 miles an hour, but it'd be confined to like maybe a 10-mile zone, a 10, 20-mile zone, if that, if it becomes a hurricane. And then after that, it'll quickly die down for everybody, the tropical storm force winds, for the remainder as the system weakens quickly as it makes landfall. And so that's what we're looking at. Down South Texas, you guys are not in the clear either, because the system has been showing heavy convection on that southwest side. So as it comes in, you probably could still get a heavy rainfall down there, maybe 2-3 inches down the Rio Grande Valley, and it'll dry up quickly as the system pulls north and east away from everybody. And then it'll just be that area here that the Hurricane Center has denoted here for the rainfall potential. Back to the rainfall potential, it'll be that area, that I-45 corridor right here. If you're coming from Huntsville, College Station, towards Baytown, those areas south, League City, Galveston City, down toward the coast here, immediate coast here, you're going to be dealing with heavy rain, up to 8 inches of rain along the coast. And it eases up a bit to 6 inches. That's still a lot for Houston. Buffalo Bayou, if you're coming along I-10, the Katy Freeway, west of Houston, be very careful on Monday morning. And all the way through Monday afternoon, because it's going to be heavy rain heading towards I-10 west, I-45, I-35 north. All those areas heading north in this yellow, 4 to 6 inches of rain are possible through the next 2 days here, Monday and Tuesday. So be very careful. So this pretty much, yeah. Oh, definitely, yes. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to Sophia. Good morning to Mason. Good morning to everyone. We're just giving you the latest update really quickly on Tropical Storm Beryl, which forecast to become a Category 1 hurricane later on this afternoon in the latest advisory. So, and the rainfall will be the biggest threat for eastern Texas, as well as the tornado threat that you want to watch out for later Monday night, for all points east of Dallas-Fort Worth and east of Houston, Texas, as the system works its way in. And so that's what we're looking at here as far as Tropical Storm Beryl. Here's the wind history. As you can see, it was hurricane force winds extended out 40 miles, 30 to 40 miles from the center, on its way all the way to the Yucatan Peninsula, and then it just became a tropical storm, and now we just have this tropical storm force winds extending out 120 miles from the center, 125 miles from the center. And so that's forecast to change here in this little pocket of window here. Excuse me. It only has about 220 miles left before it makes landfall, and they'll cover that tonight before making landfall. It's 220 miles south, 355 kilometers southeast of Corpus Christi, Texas, 360 kilometers southeast of Matagorda, Texas here. So it's going to cover that tonight and make landfall sometime between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. Monday morning coming up here. And so that's why the intensification window it has is very small. But for those people who say it's going to become a major hurricane again, a Category 2 or a Category 3, I will say this. There was a storm in the Pacific, as you remember a couple years ago, Hurricane Patricia, not a couple years ago, last year, that hit Mexico, hit over on the west coast of Mexico, and it intensified rapidly, like within 30 to 40 miles of the coast. It went all the way up from a tropical storm to a Category 4 or 5. So it's possible. But, it's possible. So I don't never want to say never, because the storm still has time, about 200 miles, to take advantage of this ultra warm water that's coming up into that zone. It won't be getting to that zone probably till the 5 p.m. advisory later on today, but it's coming up on that zone of warm water that everybody's talking about just off the Texas coast. So we'll see what happens. But you have to remember, the storm has to be vertically stacked for it to take advantage of that. If it's not vertically stacked, meaning in the low, mid, and upper levels stacked to take advantage, to suck that, to draw off that energy, just like a jet engine, it has to draw off that energy, to be vertically stacked, to pump it out and then pump out the cold air, fan out the cold air. It has to have good inflow and outflow. If it doesn't have that, it's not going to be able to take advantage of that. And right now, I just don't see it taking advantage of that. But like I said, we did have that storm in the Pacific last year that hit the western coast of Mexico that intensified in less than 12 hours from a tropical storm to a Category 4 or 5. So it's possible, but I just don't see that likely. Right now, I put that in rapid intensification at about a 40% chance, 45% chance. So that's good news for us. So that's pretty much it here. Hopefully you guys have a great morning. I will be back later on this afternoon, probably 5 or 6 o'clock, as it makes its way. So right now it's 225 miles southeast of 225 miles southeast of Matagorda, Texas, or 220 miles southeast of Corpus Christi. So we'll wait, make its way through, and we'll check in back with you probably around 5 or 6 o'clock dinner time to see how much more it has made progress, and to see how much more it will continue to make progress through today and tomorrow. So thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me on this live stream, and I look forward to talking to you more. This is the Weather Guru. Please be sure to subscribe. We'll be back on later on this afternoon as the system continues to make its beeline toward the Texas coast.